Hello, everyone, and welcome to our show today. And we have two very wonderful guests. Norah Fountain, Executive Director of the Muskoka Lakes Chamber of Commerce. Hi, Norah, how are you?
Good, great. Glad to be here.
And frequent guest, Taylor, CEO of Launch and Prosper and friend to all. Hi, Kyla, how are you doing?
I am great, Chris. Hey, Nora. I'm so glad to be here too.
I tell you, it's so much easier doing it in a studio with mics. Most people freak out when the mics are there, but I love the mics. The mics get me on point. Whenever I do the Zoom ones, I'm like Zoom chats, I'm like, yeah, this is awesome, but because of the convenience, but the mic is like, you go into full podcast mode, right?
Yep.
But this is good. I'm glad we could all meet today. And today's topic is Chambers of Commerce. We're going to talk a little bit about what they do, what some of the myths. Nora, I think, is a good idea. We pre-talked about doing, dispelling some myths. We're going to talk a little bit about what Kyla's heard from some of her business associates and in why traditionally they haven't joined chambers because everyone has their own reasons, but there's some traditional things that have popped up. Kyla was mentioning. So we'll get right into it. And I guess the first question will go to Norah. Norah, in terms of the Chamber of Commerce, maybe specifically Muskoka Lakes, maybe general, what are some of the things that people think you do that you don't do and you do that people don't realize? Or
There's
just
a lot
tell
to
a few
unpack.
myths for us.
We are the chief cook and bottle washers of business, but strangely enough, a lot of people don't even realize that. So the kinds of things they think we do that we don't do, well, a lot of them think that we're service clubs and run community events. One of my favorite things is the Santa Claus Parade. Years ago, I took over the Santa Claus Parade in 2000 after the Pierces had done it for several years as a volunteer. I continue as a volunteer to work on the Santa Claus Parade, but everyone is convinced that the Chamber of Commerce runs the Santa Claus Parade. It doesn't do anything for our businesses. Other chambers, they charge floats and things for awareness and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And so I have to always remind them that it's a community thing, that it's not us. And it's become, because I love it so much and I put so much effort into it, everyone just expects that we'll do it. But it actually takes away from a lot of the important work that we need to get done. So, and I love Santa. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to kill Santa. There's a myth that Nora wants to kill Santa. No, I love Santa. I love Santa too much. But really, the time that I can spend helping out a business problem that is not making for good business conditions in our neighborhood, that is way more important than running Santa. Now in our particular area, in this particular Bala Santa Claus Parade, we just don't have service. We don't have service clubs. We have Legion, but we don't have a Lions Club. We don't, the Rotary Club of Bracebridge and Muskoka Lakes runs the Bracebridge parade. So parades are a little bit funny, but they're on my mind because we're trying to seek volunteers right now. So those are the kinds of things. Then the biggest misunderstanding around chambers is they think that we're part of the government. And so I kind of giggle because every once in a while I'll say, I'm here to help, right? It sounds like I'm from the government and I'm here to help, which is a negative thing. But I say, if you've got a question, bring it to us. If we can't have an answer, we'll find you an answer. And a lot of people just don't think to reach out to the chamber, to reach out a helping hand when they're having a business issue, because they don't realize that that's what we're really there for.
Yes.
We are there to help business. And also nonprofits. Nonprofits have overhead. Nonprofits have costs. They need to generate awareness. So we have almost 50 nonprofits in our chamber. And there's 3 myths right there in a row about we're not the government. We are not a community service group, and we love nonprofits. We are not just for business.
That's actually a really good point. And the chamber itself is a nonprofit, as I understand, right?
Yeah, we're incorporated. Our chamber is incorporated as an Ontario Not-for-Profit Corporations Act under ONCA.
Yes.
And then others are under the Board of Trade Act, are federally incorporated. So, and they have a slightly different set of rules, but we all have the same mandate. If you
Yes.
go look up what a mandate for a Board of Trade or a Chamber of Commerce, it really is the economic, civic, and social welfare of the community. I like to just say prosperity for all, because that's where it sort of all sums it up. So we all have the same overall mandate. And then, of course, every single chamber will have its own strategy and its own mission statement.
Gotcha. But that's good for you to note, because I think you're right. I think a lot of people think the chamber is just kind of a branch of the government, or in league with the government for everything, but it's not. The chamber, like you mentioned, is there for prosperity. It's there to help the businesses. It's there to help the not-profits, and in turn, by extension, if you're helping those businesses be healthy and you're helping the economy be healthy in your community, and the not-profits grow and be active, it helps the community as a whole. It helps everyone living there have that prosperous community. Excuse me. So that being said, what are some of the things that maybe people don't know that you do as a chamber, Norah? Kyla, we'll get into you soon. She's just
Wait a
sitting there
minute.
patiently.
I'm going to turn it around on you, Chris.
All right,
How about
turn
you
around.
tell me what you think a chamber does?
Okay, so this is bad, because I'm not the right person to ask, because I was on the chamber board in Huntsville Laker-based Chamber of Commerce for a few years. Yes, so I know all the different things we did. I know we hosted business meetings to find out what, like, the after hours events and stuff like that, to make connections with businesses in the community. We generally tried to see what the businesses were issues were, in terms of stuff we could take and fight for them with the counselors or with province or anybody else we needed to help fight with, because there might have been some business issues or things stopping them from being successful. We also found out what was working and what they wanted to see more of in terms of the community at large. Were there events they wanted to see brought to town? Which events that were happening were actually helping their business be successful, and which weren't, which were taking away. Like, certain businesses thrive with an Ironman, whereas other businesses thrive with arts events or concerts. So you're kind of taking that into consideration. I mean, that's some of the stuff we would do when I was on the board, was just kind of do a lot of communication. Then we'd have meetings and we'd brainstorm ideas. And then Kelly Haywood, who's still the ED in Huntsville and Huntsville Lake Base, she would take those concerns to her monthly meetings with the council and whatnot, and all the other groups, and try and work on them. So that's what we did. So I'm kind of unfair to ask that question, because I already kind of had that little thing. Now, I'm sure you do some different things, Norah, and maybe different than what Kelly was doing and what we did, but that's kind of what we did.
Okay, well, what about you, Kyla? What did you originally think a chamber did?
Thanks.
I should have asked you first instead of him.
But you know what? It's really interesting, because Chris's perspective, I don't disagree with anything Chris just said. I mean, he lived that experience within the chamber that he served with. But I think as business owners, I've been members of chambers previously in my corporate life, when I was managing locally and regionally for our local banks, a couple of the top 5 banks. So our membership was a given. You needed to be a part of a center of influence. So coming from my corporate background, I saw the chamber as a community center of influence. And it was very important to be a part of that as somebody who is a leader in a business, especially in a small town. I can't speak to being part of the Board of Trade in Toronto or anything like that, but coming into a rural community, I think was an excellent way to get to know who the movers and shakers are within the business community. And then as a small business owner, so then I joined chambers because I had been a serial entrepreneur, right, prior to managing my own firm. As a serial entrepreneur and having a small business, we joined the chamber originally to make connections. So again, not thinking about the word center of influence, that's my corporate hat, but just coming in as this is where you get involved with like-minded business owners. And don't shoot me for saying this, but you know, service clubs have their place, and I was getting exhausted in a service club environment. I appreciated the business networking environment that the chamber promoted without constantly harassing me to perform community service. So now, so to me, joining a chamber meant finding a collective where you fit and getting to know the local business environment. And that's sort of why we became parts of chambers at different times in my business life.
You know, I'd like to explore the idea of center of influence. Some people say COI, and that center of influence, because it's a completely different way for me to look at what I usually explain about our strengths. But as a center of influence, I would say that one of our greatest strengths is that we are the great connectors.
Yeah.
So it's not just about connecting you to customers. Often it's our members will come to us and they need complimentary services, or they don't know where to get funding, or so these kinds of things, connecting them with people. The other thing that's interesting about the whole nonprofit and the business connection is that we have businesses who are wanting to do more in the area of corporate social responsibility that will come to us and say, you know, we want to donate, but we don't know who to donate to, or we want to provide resources. And some of them have very specific things that they want to donate to. Like some people want to donate to Aspen Valley. Other people, it's families, not animals. It's so we connect them together. And we also have very quietly, we have our seasonal residents will come to us and say, you know, what families are in need. Again, that's not really part of our mandate. But when we talk to them and we connect them with organizations that can then help them do what they're trying to do, we've done a service for both the nonprofit and, of course, it's good work. It's the work that we really like to do. And I think about CNIB. They did really something very interesting up at CNIB Lake Joe, where they created the first, it's called a side-by-side soccer pitch. So when the ball hits the sides, it makes noise. And so people that have sight disabilities can play soccer. And members like Fowler, Brent Quarries, some non-members. I'm thinking about Hall Construction up in Perry Sound, because CNIB Lake Joe's right on that edge. Yep. They all came together with the materials that were needed to create the first side-by-side in all of North America. Like it felt really good to make those connections. And later on, you know, they all took their bows and they were listed as, but I could sit back and go, you know, I helped do that. And I love that. That makes me feel great. So that's one way that we become a center of influence that you might not think about, is that we are the great connectors.
Yes.
And then when it comes to center of influence, also being that we do have all of our local businesses. We are the business voice of those businesses. And so, and you talked about it, Chris. I think that our chamber actually does a lot more on the advocacy front than some of the others, both municipally, provincially, federally, and globally. And you know what? That comes back to myths. Some people, and sometimes I really perpetuate this myth, because we're so focused on support local.
Yes.
And absolutely, that's really important, especially in the age of Amazon, that support local is really important. But that doesn't mean that we only support local business. No. I mean, Kyla, right now, she told me about how she's got people from Boston signing up for her courses. So we actually can be a center of influence globally as well. We can help our businesses. We have one in Bala that out of Bala runs a business that touches every corner of the world, doing like incredible work, making foundries safer for workers. Don't inhale silicon. It's this manufacturing idea came out of Bala, and they go to South Africa and India and Mexico. And so, and we would put them in touch with, say, the Trade Accelerator program that
Mhm.
came out of the Toronto Region Board of Trade, or, other programs like that. And it helps that, so while we have our center of influence right here, we also have the Ontario Chamber behind us, the Canadian Chamber behind us, that gives us the access to all kinds of things. So I don't want to say we don't support local, of course we do, but there's a thought that they only do that. So again, Kyla, for your businesses, some of them might say, well, why would I join somebody who just wants to make sure that we shop in downtown Port Carling?
Yeah.
In fact, they don't realize that this tiny center of influence in Muskoka also can have a global reach.
Well, and it's funny you say that, Norah. I really believe that people in general, but business owners specifically, often confuse BIAs, business improvement area organizations, with chamber. And I think to be able to differentiate that is so critical in a small town, because truthfully, it is one of the BIA's mandates to cultivate a thriving downtown core, right? In a small town. But what I'm hearing, what you're saying, Norah, is there's just that wonderful commitment to economic stability locally for businesses, being the voice of the business community within a small town. But you have this broader awareness and broader professional network that helps businesses in smaller communities export their products, services, you name it, right? So there's so much more weight bearing in a chamber to me on economic stimulus, on economic development, rather than just extremely local, like hyper local tourism, hyper local beautification. And I think that, like, I know this might be off topic, but I have this theory that BIAs and chambers working harmoniously is often what really puts a small town on the map.
It's interesting. Sorry about that, Chris. Some people think that chambers of commerce and BIAs have a struggle between them, or they go head to head. Now, in my area, we don't have any BIAs, but my experience is that they actually work very well together. And the other thing is, so every once in a while, we'll get one of our communities. In Muskoka Lakes, we have 16 communities, a First Nation, one town. We got a lot of geography. And every once in a while, I'll say, well, we like what the chamber's doing, but we really think there needs to be more focus on our village, and we're going to start a BIA. And then they discover that a BIA means that you have to pay taxes to the municipality.
Yeah.
And that immediately stops that. And I said, listen, why don't we do a regional focus group instead? But like, I'd be happy. You want to go ahead and do a BIA? And oh my gosh, you could take on things like, the events that I don't think are necessarily pertinent to all of the sectors of business that we support. You could take all these events. I mean, Embrace Bridge, Fire and Ice, which is such an awesome event, that's run by the BIA, not the Chamber of Commerce.
Yeah.
It brings tourism in. It brings people to us in the winter. So it's an economic driver, and that's something that the BIA is doing. But is that specifically helping those businesses? I think it does, but there's a fine line. We have a chart about everything that we take on when somebody has a brilliant idea, and we have them all the time, right? And then I say, okay, so does it do this? Is it political? Does it achieve this? Like, we have to go through that list.
Yeah.
And so if BIAs want to bring attention to their downtown core, Fire and Ice is such a perfect example. It's all about the downtown core.
Yes.
And they do great work. So yeah, they can work really well together, but that's actually, a BIA actually gets closer to being part of the government than a chamber does.
Yeah.
No, yeah, then that's fair. And I personally think that even the BIAs should just be more supporting community groups to do these events, right? Like, or the chamber supports too, because the chambers support all these events in one way or another to help make them happen, without actually having to be the lead all the time. And the BIA, when it's a downtown event, if there is a BIA, should take it over. For instance, like Dan just Huntsville Festival Arts just did their Nuit Blanche North, right? And that's a downtown core event. EIA helps out with that. And and the town supports that, but it's a Huntsville Festival of the Arts led event, right?
Yeah, and I struggle with the whole idea of events and chambers, actually.
Yeah.
In fact, even my township said, why don't you take credit for these events? And and sometimes I consider it a campaign. For example, we do run events that support local in particular. In this February, we did the Love Local giveaway. So why should Valentine's Day be one day? Like, let's make it 14 days. And we got up to there. And then after the next 14 days of the month, we gave away giveaways and promoted our businesses and support local. So some people say, oh, that was an event. I consider it a campaign that was also an event. We also did the Bala season opener, which they have a bit of a slow start to the season to kickstart the season. Yes, that is an event. But when you start talking about, so the arts, like Muskoka, Chautauqua, another example, talk about arts and culture, that is their event.
Yes.
We promote it, we support it, but
Yes.
that be an event that we run. I actually think that I get nervous when people talk about chambers doing a lot of events, because chambers can go down this rabbit hole of doing events to perhaps as a revenue stream, but are they really helping? I even wonder about golf tournaments.
Yeah.
That's old. And to me, I never want to do a golf tournament. To me, that perpetuates that myth of it's a bunch of old curmudgeon-y people that don't have time to go out on the links. And I shouldn't knock that. I mean,
I love how you refuse to say the old boys club.
Yeah,
Come
like
on, Nora.
I mean, that is the number one myth. The number one myth that is a bunch of old white people in a corner that are curmudgeons counting their pennies because already made it and they don't care about anything else. And that's not the reality of today's chamber. I mean, if you want to go back to the 1600s in France, yeah, it probably was. The first in Canada, it was actually in Halifax in 1750. And there are chambers all around the world. And boy, I'm really stuck on Chamberland, because whenever I travel, I actually go visit the local chamber just to see what are you doing? What are you to try to pick up ideas and things like that. But back to the event thing, I would rather move away from events and be very specific. Also, a business after hours is an event. And believe me, it's a full production.
Yes.
And this year we're running 30 events. That's 2 a month. It's a lot.
Yes.
But we ran and we're booking into 2024. We had a business after hours almost every month. We don't do them in July and August because that's the high season, and the business leaders can't come out to those. They're too busy, in that particular time. So a business after hours is an event.
Yes.
But again, the second thing that people think, oh, well, chambers are just for networking and or advertising. This is my personal pain point, because I love marketing. I come from a marketing background. Yes, I think we do marketing specific very well. I have a lot going on social media. We're always marketing our members. But when I get a member who calls and says, I think I'm going to put my advertising dollars somewhere else, it's like they put a spear through my chest, because yes, we market you. Yes, we promote you. Of course, we always want to get you those valuable referrals. But I think what makes us relevant, not even relevant, essential, is we will take your issue and we'll go to bat for you. You said it, Chris, and I don't want to say fight because we have good partnerships, but locally, I can talk about a simple thing. We had a cab company come into town, and they're Torrance Taxi. But they suddenly had an office in Gravenhurst. And so I asked them, why are you doing that? And they said, well, because of the bylaws. If our cars are 8 years old, we can't run them in Muskoka Lake. And I said,
really?
And yeah, it was really crazy. So we looked into it. No other area, Muskoka has no bylaws, no other area. We have all these bylaws, and I don't mind having a licensing bylaw or anything. You can't even buy a car yet today. And if you try to insure it as a cab company, it's almost impossible. So I said, this is ridiculous. So we went to town, and this particular business owner was prepared to go in and talk. And that's something I'd like to talk about in another session. But so we went in and we said, listen, this Cadillac is in mint condition. It's 8 years old. It's safetied. It's constantly, it's in great shape. We have cars that are falling apart that show up in front of the quay from wherever to
Yeah.
pick up people. And if I called his cab from Gravenhurst, he could come in and pick me up in Manette. But if I was walking down the street in Manette and wanted to hail him, I couldn't pull him over because legally he can't operate that car. So
Yeah.
we just, and in front of council, it was actually really fun too. It was the first time since COVID that we had an in-person delegation.
Nice.
I talked about in Gravenhurst, somebody's come up with this idea of grave and hearse. I was always waiting for that. I used to always make jokes about grave and hearse, and somebody's got an old hearse and you can rent it. And I said, I have no idea. I'm sure it's safetied. I'm sure it's in good shape, but right now it looks like a dusty old hearse and people are loving it. We can't do something innovative like this in Muskoka Lakes. The rest of the council went, we didn't know that thing was on the books. It was from 2017, right? And let's get rid of that. And that's a win. It may not seem like a big win, but a week later, another cab company walked in and said, we're joining the chamber because our cars are turning 8 years old and we heard about what you did.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it helps. Provincially, again, I talk about the Ontario Chamber of Commerce, and it is really important to have the Ontario Chamber Network. And we were the canary in the coal mine when one of our members came to us and said, we've been deemed ineligible for the Ontario Small Business Grant. We then proceeded to get 12 of them that were ineligible for this small business grant. But I went into an Ontario Chamber meeting. I said, hey, we're hearing about this. And everyone, no, we're not hearing about it. The next week, everybody was hearing about it. They said,
Yeah.
what are you doing? Like, how are you? Because I was getting them reopened and they wanted the playbook. So I shared that playbook. And this took a turn that I did not expect. But one of the people that was deemed ineligible is an osteopath. So during COVID, if you didn't have an RMT, you couldn't be open. And this osteopath didn't have a registered massage therapist. So, and it turned out that all across Ontario, osteopaths were being turned down. So they're completely closed down. They're a small business, but they couldn't get the small business grant. So we got that small business grant. We made her eligible for the small business grant. She took the playbook and she went to the, I don't know what it's called, it's the Ontario Osteopathy Association. And they shared it with all of their members and started reopening that and getting osteopaths back open and running again.
Nice.
So that's the power of being, so don't ever underestimate a center of influence can be somebody in a little town.
True.
But if you've got the right supports behind you, and so I used to actually on the invoices, I used to say $10 for the OCC fee because we pay $10 a head, whether they end up renewing or not. So it's an expense to us. And others I find don't do that. And I found I wanted the conversation. I wanted people to know where that money was going to.
Yeah.
So we used to do that. We used to show it on the list.
That's a good idea. I like that because even
Yeah.
I'm vice president of soccer club, obviously not for profit, and members always come up and say, and parents of players, well, where does all my money go, right, on your fees? And then it's like, you know what? I'll break it down for you in person, on paper, whatever you want, because we're very transparent about everything. But then I always say we should send a letter out to everyone once a year and be like, this is where your money's going. We pay this much in insurance for safety for your kids, and if something happens, you're covered. We pay this much for your jerseys and shorts and everything you get every year. We pay this much to the Ontario Soccer Association as a membership fee. We pay this, just like you were saying, the OCC, right? And you're paying all these fees out, and this is where some of this money's going. And I'm like, that's a great idea. I think that's great. $10 goes to OCC out of this invoice, right? I think that's a great thing,
Now we stopped charging nonprofits the OCC fee, and it was a bit of a knee-jerk reaction on my part because first of all, I personally believe in a guaranteed income. I really believe in that. I pay, even though we're a nonprofit and it's hard, our employees, including even summer students, living wage, because we believe in that. But when the living wage came out and the way it was rolled out, there were some unintended consequences to some businesses. So the Ontario Chamber of Commerce took a position on it. It wasn't against the living wage. It was about the unintended consequences
Yes.
of rolling it out or speeding it up without letting people change their POS systems and do all the
Yes.
things we needed to do. And YWCA, who I love, YWCA Muskoka, they said, "Oh, you're against the living wage. Like, we're not, why would we do this? And why should we be a member?" And I was able to explain it, which was great. But my reaction was, oh, I better take off the OCC fee to nonprofits. Now, the
Yeah.
Ontario Chamber doesn't like that. And I've actually come around to their thinking is that the kind of work we do also helps nonprofits. So I might have to have a conversation with our nonprofits and put it back on. But I took it off just because, and you know what? I fell victim to perception. So
Yeah.
there's this perception that it's super right-wing business people that are part of the Ontario Chamber of Commerce. And that's not the case. And in fact, I'm really pleased that when I think back to 2018, I approached the Ontario Chamber of Commerce with Greenstone, the rehab facility, about trying to get OHIP beds in Muskoka Lakes because we needed different treatments, I felt, and we have an opioid crisis here. And
Yeah.
at the time, the OCC said, that's healthcare, that's out of our lane, we don't do that. Well, COVID changed that. Now we have a full mental health, it's called the echo pandemic. In fact, I had one of my members that's in the wellness space sit on that province-wide roundtable in my place. And so we did that. We've got one on the opioid crisis, and we even look at how it affects business. Like if you talk to my colleagues in Aurelia, who was also the harbor master for the Aurelia Harbor, all the damage that's happening, people breaking into boats, things like that. So that's a business problem, but it's also the bigger problem is what's called presenteeism. So when you show up to work, but you're not really there, you're not
Yes.
being productive because you've got a drug problem.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden healthcare is now in our lane. And that makes me really happy because I think that's extremely important that that you have to look at business holistically.
Yeah.
And that's relatively new, isn't it, Kyla? I mean, people have been
Yeah.
talking about preventive medicine and what you need to do at the workplace and all of that kind of stuff, but it's been talk for a long, long time. Now people are starting to say, what can I do for my employees and what can I do for myself so I'm healthier at work?
I think it's awesome, Norah, that your chamber is taking that view, right? Like there's an economic support requirement that the chamber fills. And now there's a socioeconomic that, especially in a small town, right? And I know the businesses that we work with, like the big elephant in the room for them is labor shortage, labor and housing, right? Labor and housing are the biggest problems that we really as individuals cannot solve. It's everybody playing a role in the solution to the problem.
Yes.
And I'm hearing, Norah, like what I'm hearing is that you've identified a lot of the social requirements to make a community healthy that directly impacts businesses, right? I mean, we are 99% pretty much small business in our region. And so it's really amazing. When you were talking earlier about the depth and the level of advocacy that your chamber, that you leading your chamber is providing, I started thinking about a commercial jingle, like pay for the advocacy, stay for the friendship, like, I'm not going to sing, but that's really true. And just to go back to like the whole marketing and advertising piece, like when business owners say we're going to spend our advertising dollars elsewhere, I think you hit a really deep chord that also needs to be demystified, right? Like to me, a chamber fee is a professional fee.
Yeah.
When you look at when your accountant does your taxes at the end of the year, it's a write-off.
Yeah.
It is a write-off under management fee or professional fees. Okay. It is not marketing and advertising fees.
No.
And if there's a business out there that's listening to me, go back to your accountant or bookkeeper, because you need to make sure that those fees are attributed to the right taxation, right? So that's number one. And it should be separate. Your marketing budget should never be misaligned. It should be completely separate to the management fees that you pay. You may have a lawyer on retainer. You may have your accountant, fees every year, your bookkeeper, whatever. The chamber falls into that section. And I guess, I mean, if I've taken anything away right now, it's understanding that the chamber is not at your service. They're not at your service as a service provider of said tactical things in your business, like marketing your business. They're not there to market your business. I mean, that's why you go to a marketing agency or a business development firm, or you have an internal team that's based on marketing. To me, the chamber is the icing on the cake. So you sign up to be a part of a business community where you're going to have somebody like Norah and her team advocating for you. I love the idea that you're the great connector. Like, Norah, how many members do you have right now?
We're just about 400 now. Not all of them have renewed, so
that's
that
okay.
number's up and down. Yeah,
but think about it. There's 400 people that Norah knows, pretty much personally.
Yeah.
So I could go to Norah as a business owner and say, "Hey, Norah, we've got space in our company. We're looking to take on some new clients. Here's the problems we solve. We want to work with a few more mid-sized businesses, and we can work with their marketing. We can work with their financial planning, their strategic planning, whatever it is. If you know somebody who's struggling, or if you know somebody who's in the process of desperately trying to get their kids to take over their business, let them talk to us." Norah's going to be like, "Oh yeah, I know so-and-so over here. They mentioned this the other day," and boom, you have a connection, right? Like, to me, you cannot advertise to get that kind of conversion.
No.
To have an introduction, to build a relationship with somebody. So I think that's really what outside of the administrative costs and what people's membership fees are paying for, there's a bit of a peace of mind element to it, that you have this chamber that has your back for your business. So that's kind of what I've gotten out of our convo so far.
No, we're, and I know that we're very close to time here. So, but it's interesting that I haven't really thought about it, but I would say 90% of our members probably put us under advertising and marketing. And yes, we have a lot of that. We're going to always market our members, but it's kind of a bonus. It's not the main thing. And the other thing is, I'll say, is I've had some chamber executive directors tell me that no one would ever come to them with a question like that, Kyla. They say, no one ever comes to us to say, we've got a problem with our business. Like, we never get that. And I sort of sit back and think, okay, well, that's probably why we're doing things differently. But really a lot of chambers do this. They will get into, I'm looking at how I hand off the business consultations because of time, right? What can I do? And I mean, there's your company, Muskoka Futures has moved there, as well as loaning money. They've also got now an advisory person in Jody Chapman Good, that she's an advisory person. I'm going to start saying, here, I need you. I would love to talk to you about this, and I can still bring back any of the local needs that you need around it. But how about you go talk to Jody? And
what's so great about connection. What's so great about that is that Jody actually connects to Launch and Prosper. So then she'll do the intake with a business owner, and oftentimes is sending them our way, which is fantastic. So what I love about Jody is I feel like she's the advisory navigator. But I also, so it's interesting, right? Speaking of connecting the dots, Norah, you are also a navigator. Like, you help people navigate quickly to the right people. And then Muskoka Futures is the same thing. Like, it's interesting for me what I love about our business community in Muskoka is, in the beginning, everyone thought that LMP, that our business was a direct competitor. And like in terms of, oh, we don't want to work with you because you're taking our clients. Well, we are not a subscription service, and we are not an advocacy service in that regard, right? Like, we're not looking at that. We just want to connect business owners with the right people. So oftentimes we're the ones connecting business owners to the local chamber. and we are sending them to Muskoka Futures, and we are supporting the conversations that are being held at financial institutions or through investors, and just making sure that the overall planning piece is in play, and that people's acumen is, you're able to like share your business on the table. And we've always had a great collaborative relationship where when you need readily available high level advice and that is accessible to you, your chamber is there. Like you have all of the ways to navigate business owners to the right people. The one thing I love about podcast recordings when we're not in the studio is that you may or may not hear the beasts in the background. So
we wondered why you suddenly went on pause. Okay.
So hello everybody in Radio Land. We have too many dogs in the studio. But anyway, no, as I was saying, I love that that business owners in Muskoka, in my mind, have so much access to resources.
Yeah.
And they have people like you, Norah, to point them in all those directions. And Futures is the same thing. Like the Community Development Corp is an awesome. We work with CDCs in various towns. Muskoka Futures is an awesome brand for a CDC. But like there's Haliburton, there's Northumberland, there's Manitoulin, like there's just so much. And I truly believe that it's people like Norah. If they haven't met me yet, they're meeting Norah first. And she's pointing everybody in the right directions. And I think that's incredibly invaluable, especially to a business trying to come into the area.
Yeah.
Like we talk a lot about how in Muskoka we have land, we have space. We want to stimulate mid-sector companies, manufacturing, service, whatever you name it, to come into the region.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like the chamber is like the first point of contact.
It's true. It's true. And one thing that I've always said to people, and when they say, oh, so what's a good place for me to get this or that when they're new? I said, listen, I can offer you all kinds of people I know and whatever, because I'm well known, but the one place you want to go is to your local chamber, either the website or walk in. Like I'll drop off some Dockside magazines sometimes in front of Norah's spot, and it's always open, and they wave and they're friendly and they smile. Whoever's working there, and go in, and they have that connection and that directory of businesses that are fine, upstanding businesses as part of the chamber that you can choose from for your needs, especially if you're new to a community, or you're visiting for an extended stay and you need certain things or want certain things. You go in there and the chamber has everything. You go online, the chamber has a business directory and lets you know you can choose from that. Right? There's brochures. There's people to talk to that the chamber that will give you some advice on what's happening and where to go and all that good stuff. So yeah, it's just so much. It's like a hub of business. I love that. Like it's a hub of business, and like Norah and Kyla and myself were saying, there's the advocacy, there's everything, right? So yeah, and the chamber is just like, chamber is awesome. And Norah, obviously you're doing amazing work with what you're doing.
Our team is.
So go ahead.
Our team and our board.
Yes,
and it's our members. As I said, it's been really great for province-wide roundtables for me to go to a member and say, you have way more expertise than I do in this. Would you go represent us? And it's worked out really, really well. Strategic partnerships are extremely important to us right now. We've really learned we're not going to every single meeting. We're not, there was that's another idea, sort of an old fashioned idea, that as an executive director you had to go hit every single meeting that was happening. And no. I want to work with people that are actually moving the needle, and it's working out really well.
Nice.
Well, thanks a lot. I think that we probably, I don't know what your time constraints were, but I don't want to overtime. I only hit about 4 of the myths. We'll hit more later.
We'll do more in another time. Kyla, is there anything you wanted to mention before we sign off?
No, just a thanks. Thank you, Norah, for being an incredible center of influence.
Yeah.
Thank you for being collaborative, and I know that you truly are flying the flag for businesses in Muskoka Lakes and beyond, and that's why we've chosen to remain members of Muskoka Lakes, even though we are operating everywhere.
Yeah.
I do believe that it's oftentimes it's relationships that matter most. So if anybody's out there and they are paying membership dues to their local chamber and they are not having consistent contact or fostering the relationship with the chamber, I would just implore people to go and start making themselves known. It's a two-way street, and I think the better relationship that you bring to the table, the more you're going to get out of your chamber. So that would be, that's what we advise. It's part of when we look at a business, when we're helping plan for businesses, there's those advisory people, those advisory seats, and I think the chambers really do deserve a spot when a business person is developing all of their team or their table of advisors. So that would be my piece. And then of course, thank you, Chris. I love these shows that we do together, and I love all of the things about Muskoka Unlimited. So thank you for putting out fantastic content.
Well, thank you. And thank you, Kyla, for those kind words. And thank you, Norah, for coming. One thing I will add, and it's something I truly believe in, especially if you're a Muskoka-wide company, it doesn't matter what town or township you are in. Join a chamber that's going to work for you, or join all the chambers if you want. I mean, I know a lot of people that have joined all the chambers just because they want to support, and they work throughout Muskoka. So they have, it makes sense for them to be a part of all of them. If you're not a part of a chamber and you want to, Norah is a great person to contact, or anyone else.
Thanks for that plug.
Yeah, and I think that what Kyla said was right. If you feel like you need more contact, maybe you do need to make yourself known, because a lot of the time, people like Norah and her team, or whoever, any of the chambers and their team, might be working on a whole bunch of stuff behind the scenes, like we just talked about with advocacy and some of the great work you've been doing with the Ontario Chamber and all that good stuff, and even getting the taxi bylaws sorted out for people. They might be working on those things and don't always have the opportunity to come shake every single 400 person's hands.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I was going to say that about it. It does work if you work it. If you consider, if we have 400 members, I meet one member a day in a year.
No, exactly.
So you
right?
have to come to us too, and don't be shy about it. So thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Oh, and I just want to end on something. I'm really super excited about something that we're doing. As we record this, we have a group of young professionals that are in another space, and they are talking about the chamber that they would like to have. If they were to build a chamber from the ground up, what would it look like? And we're really excited. It's almost kind of like Rotary has Rotaract. This is like our Chamber Act. So we have a group of young professionals telling us what they want and I'm staying away because I don't fit in the age bracket. So I'm really excited that's happening. It does work if you work it. And I hope that we can have this kind of conversation again. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And thanks everyone. And I'm going to stop the recording shortly, and then we can say our goodbyes. So everyone who's listening, thank you for listening. And you heard all the good stuff. There'll be links in our posts to the chamber and to Launch and Prosper, as always. So you guys can find out more from there. All right. Thanks for listening, everyone. Bye for now.